I'm Jim Collison, live from Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 2, recorded on May 12th, 2016. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the CliftonStrengths Finder themes, one theme at a time, and today's theme is empathy. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during this webcast, we do have a live chat room that's available for you right below the main video window, so if you just head down there, look, you should see a chat room that's available for you. It's called Chatwing. Bottom left-hand corner, hit the login button there. Choose the guest account, put your name in the guest window, and hit submit. Super easy. You don't need to create an account. It might ask you to, or you can log in with Facebook or LinkedIn or a lot of those social accounts you can log in with or create a Chatwing account. We love to have you in the chat room. Best way to communicate with us during the program. And we will take your live questions. So join us live in the chat room. If you're listening to the recorded version, what I should have said, and you need custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, or just some awesome training maybe provided by Micah, right? Micah, you're still doing
or
training.
A group of my friends, otherwise known as the most talented people in the world.
They are pretty talented. All that's available for you. Send us an email, coaching@gallup.com, and somebody will get right back with you, and we can get you some information about that. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com for all your coaching resources and training needs. You can also catch the video on both streaming and downloadable audio for offline listening to past shows. All on our coach's blog, tons of resources run by Micah. She is the queen of the blog. Those are available, coaching.gallup.com. Micah Librant is our host today. She is my favorite learning. Oh, I shouldn't say that because we have some folks in L&D listening today live from Washington, D.C. We want to recognize them. But Micah, welcome to Theme Thursday.
Thanks, Jim. I think I can be your favorite, and we can still have other favorites, too. I think that's probably the beauty of Woo. We have lots of favorites. I just happen to be the best of the favorites, right?
Well, in Q12, it says, do I have a best friend at work? And you might be my best friend at work, and that's singular, so I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, you're definitely one of my best friends at work.
Oh, okay, so it can be multiple is what you're saying.
Of course.
Okay.
I hope it is.
We are excited to bring empathy to you today, and we're just going to kind of feel our way through this webcast.
We're going to feel, we're going to sense, we're going to intuit.
It's a bad joke. Let's get started with empathy.
Empathy's awesome. So today we get to talk about empathy. Let's dive right in and make sure everyone's got that companion guide so you can follow along with us. Really, we are creating those so that one by one you can really develop your understanding and make sure that everyone's speaking the same language when it comes to truly understanding what do these themes mean. So following along that companion guide, the first thing we have at the very top is the definition, the short definition of empathy. Those few sentences are going to be the same sentences you'll find on your theme sequence report, which is one of the reports that's available as soon as you finish the assessment. And it says this: people exceptionally talented in the empathy theme can sense other people's feelings by imagining themselves in others' lives or situations. I think if I were to just totally simplify empathy, it is feeling with other people. And it's probably out of all 34, it's one of them that I end up talking about the most, I think, because the word empathy brings with it some bias. It's a word that we use a lot outside of CliftonStrengths Finder, and so typically when people see it high or they see it low, they always want to talk about why it's there and what effect that might have on how they think, feel, and behave every single day. And usually when we talk about empathy that's low with people, it comes from this fear of, gosh, does that mean I don't care about anybody? And I always like to help people remember that CliftonStrengths Finder defines empathy not as I care about how you're feeling, but I feel how you're feeling. It is almost a sixth sense. I can sense the feelings in a room just like I can sense the feelings of is it cold or hot. I always help people understand true empathy here is being able to walk into a room and understand, gosh, has a fight just broke out in this room even before I was even here? Are people feeling things that they aren't putting a voice to? People with high empathy, they feel those along with them.
I always think of it like the Superman power of being able of X-ray vision, but being able to see through people, and then picking up on those things we can't see in them, those who don't have or are not high in empathy from that standpoint, and sensing before other people even sense. They walk into a room or meeting with somebody individually, having that kind of sixth sense of saying, oh, wait a minute, what's wrong? And knowing there's something going on.
It's like X-ray emotion. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
By the way, Micah, can that also go in the we often think of empathy in the negative sense from a detecting what's wrong with somebody in that because that's so powerful. But can that go the other way with positivity and saying, sensing into a room and somebody's just having a great day and you say, hey, share with me what you're excited about and being able to sense that. Can it go
Yeah.
both
Oh my
positive and
gosh,
negative?
absolutely. And Jim, we're probably oversimplifying it to say both positive and negative. I don't think it's quite so much a linear, is it this or is it that? I think with empathy, you're feeling the entire sphere of emotions with people. It's, are you happy? Are you sad? Are you mad? Are you glad? Are you a little bit upset about this? Are you going to be a little bit upset about this? Are you going to be excited about this? It's very oftentimes people with high empathy can sense how other people feel even before they feel it because they're picking up on those cues to feelings sort of all the time.
And not even a point in time, but it could be a future thought based on, hey, we're going to be making these decisions, and that person can say, because they're putting themselves in the shoes of others, they can say, ooh, I have a feeling they're going to react or respond to this way, which in leadership is super helpful, by the way, to have that kind of clairvoyance in a little way to
Yeah.
say, hey, there may be some things we want to think about or consider when we're making decisions like this. So maybe not, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe not just today or just in the moment, but also in a future tense.
Yeah, well, I think that people anticipate the future. People probably have feelings about the future, so therefore, people with high empathy can pick up on what those feelings are. I think about empathy as being a litmus test, a radar, like you can plug in to other people and sort of download the emotion that other people are feeling, and really just be there with them and understand. It's not just about thinking about how they feel. I think there's a difference there. I was coaching somebody yesterday who had empathy at number 33, and he said, that's really surprising because one of the things that I would have said I did really well is the people stuff at work. And I said, well, tell me what you mean by the people stuff. And he said, I'm excellent at finding the right person who's excited about the right job, putting them in it and helping them really focus on their strengths and think about how do they feel about that and what is that going to mean for them. Well, we looked up at his top signature themes, and right there at 5 and 6 was individualization and arranger. And I think that's probably a little bit more of a cerebral approach to how people feel. I'm constantly thinking about it. I'm curious about it, that individualization side. And then the arranger of, and I can use that curiosity and what I learned from it in order to help them be in the best place. Those two together could look like the same outcome that empathy could get to. Empathy by itself doesn't need to do anything with that information. It's just that you're constantly sensing it and feeling it alongside people.
Judy says in the chat room she has empathy number 3 and almost always can see both sides of the argument. So and interesting, again, we often think of it in context of people, but being able to see both good and bad or both negative and positive or both, whatever. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Both good and bad, both negative and
No,
positive?
just seeing both sides of the argument
Oh,
and kind of
absolutely.
sensing that, yeah.
Yeah, I think empathy, it can be an exhausting theme because it's not something you turn off. If you have high empathy, you don't walk into an argument and think, all right, now I'm going to think about where each party is coming from. I think you probably, before you even show up in the room, you can feel the multiple angles, the detail, the mess of what's going on all sides. And I say all rather than either, because I think when you're involving yourself in a spectrum of emotion, like empathy can, it doesn't feel quite so linear as positive or negative, or what are two sides. Somebody with high empathy could really, I think, give voice to the more than two sides, the additional layers that are there, the awareness. Now, that being said, and we'll dive into this in a moment, real empathy could be a great advisor to people. Of if you're going to make a high decision, or an important decision, think about using somebody with high empathy to help you inform what kind of an impact that's going to have on people. Or think about the great partnership that somebody with high empathy could have if they worked with somebody who could say, I know this is going to have an impact on people, either positive or negative, and regardless of that impact, we are moving forward.
No, very good. Let's dig in a little bit. Power and edge.
Yeah, so when we talk about power and edge, it's not two opposite things. It's just power and edge. I think about it like that. It's it's what makes it valuable. So helping to move from the name it to the claim it side. What's the value of this theme? People with strong empathy talents are able to build and form relationships that have great emotional depth. Others feel understood by them and seek their company. Their innate ability to understand the emotions of those around them provides comfort and stability. Those are some of the things that we look for in every leader. In fact, if you read strengths-based leadership and really get to know a little bit about what do followers need from leaders, the first thing that jumps out to me is the word compassion, and that's one of the big four that we all need from our leaders. So imagine the quickness to build compassion if you're understanding how people feel.
What about as we think about raw and mature? We have a couple boxes in our companion guide. If you're new to Theme Thursday, we have a companion guide available for you, and we kind of cover raw versus mature. Micah, would you walk us through a few of those?
Yeah, of course. So if you're new, welcome. Raw is remembering that our themes are neutral and that there's a developmental journey to them. This is a sort of an artistic way to describe what these themes could look like when they're raw and when they're more developed, when you add some intentional growth to them. Raw empathy is a state, whereas mature empathy is a start. I was channeling my inner Kurt Liesfeld there. I think about, empathy could just be, I'm with you in this moment. It's I'm in this state. I'm feeling what you're feeling. Empathy by itself, again, doesn't have to do anything with that. But mature empathy knows that because I'm feeling what you're feeling, we can use that to go somewhere. So it's a state versus a start. Raw empathy is about absorbing. And I think mature empathy is about expressing. So it can be amazingly draining to be somebody with high empathy and be dealing with other people's emotions all day because you are absorbing those emotions. You're not just thinking about how people feel. You're not feeling sorry for them when they're sad. That's sympathy. With high empathy, you're absorbing all of those emotions and you're feeling them yourself. If you stop there, I think it's probably still in that raw state. The mature state is to think about, how do I release that? How do I love the word express because it's got sort of a dual meaning there. How do I let it go? Express it if you think about a sponge. But how do I also use what I'm absorbing to help other people give voice to what they're feeling? So thinking about how do you handle the mess that you're absorbing and how do you use that as a way to help other people move toward a greater place?
No, oh, very good. Hey, can I try my hand at maybe two?
Yeah, go for it.
You were talking about this. I was just thinking about this. So in a raw state, it's owning, right? It's you take it on, you feel it. It's your emotion. It's bringing in, and maybe when we talk about that draining, it's your owning it. In its mature state, more of empowering, right? You're taking that and empowering other people by what you know about what's going on with that. What do you think? How did I do?
I think you're really good at this, Jim. Yeah, and that sort of goes along with one of the things that I'd put here. You can be kind of driven by other people's feelings. Raw empathy is making every decision based on how other people are telling you or emoting to you that they feel, versus and sort of being owned by it, maybe to follow your ownership idea. Whereas mature empathy is, I can use that information but I'm going to still guide us where we need to go.
Joe asked, kind of, could that idea of ownership in a negative sense be a basement of empathy?
Probably. I think
if we take that too internal, right? If that drags us down, maybe if that lessens the energy around it.
It's certainly something that's vulnerable about people with high empathy. If you think about it as being a sponge and absorbing the emotions of other people, that can be something awesome, or that can be something that if you're around negative people all day, you're going to feel the way that they feel. Yeah. And probably important for people with high empathy to understand that you should seek out and feel with people who are going to bring you up, because you will start to mirror how they feel. As mature as you are with empathy, as good of a job as you can do of just using that to guide where you're going rather than following where everyone else is going, I still think you're certainly going to experience what other people are experiencing. So being intentional about the kinds of emotions that you surround yourself with is certainly a good idea.
Yeah, we got a couple more. What else on raw versus mature?
Reactive versus proactive, and we've probably talked about this a little bit, but I think raw empathy is pretty reactive. In my own life, and I don't have empathy super high, it's in my top 10. Yeah, it's not super high enough that I don't know exactly where it is. So I guess it is high. It's in my top 10. When I first started leading courses, I would be very easily swayed by, oh my gosh, I know that, one person who's even sitting in the back of the room is definitely not picking up what I'm putting down, and they are upset about it. And so I would let that derail my entire presentation for the rest of the room, just because I needed to react to one emotion that I was picking up so strongly. It can be kind of reactive. I think the proactive, mature side of that is you're feeling those emotions anyway. Set the scene for what those emotions need to be, and think about using it in a way that will help you go forward.
I think this last pair is really insightful.
Yeah. Raw is I follow the feelings of others. Mature is I lead by feeling the emotions of others. There's nothing weak about followership, but I think empathy as a leadership theme is about constantly using your litmus test toward how people feel as a guide, sort of back and forth, but also being strong enough to say, hey, I know what effect this is having on you, and here's how it's going to be okay, here's where we're going.
Yeah, there's some complementary themes when we think about empathy. We've got a couple that we want to highlight. Why don't you start with the first one?
So this, again, every theme can be complementary, but we think about what other themes in other people might help accentuate the empathy or use it in a better way. The first I came up with here is responsibility. So if you've got somebody with high responsibility, they've constantly got their eye on the list of commitments. So what sort of deliverables have we already promised we would execute upon? So that could help focus someone with empathy toward what do we need to do, and avoid the ability to get derailed by maybe an emotional mess that they stumble upon. Another great complementary theme might be somebody with strategic, and I think about the complement almost in the opposite direction here. Somebody with empathy could inform someone with high strategic about, what is the big picture, what is the emotional effect of our big picture plan.
Yeah, we should almost rename that section the Power of Two. In
we
some
should.
regards, right? Because we talk about, when we explain that every time when we mention complementary themes, we kind of say, everything can be, but I do like when you said that, it kind of made sense to me. It's like oftentimes when we're looking for partners and we're thinking about what other complementary themes and other people can really add to what I'm doing. So I don't know. It's too late now, but maybe as we think about season 3, we can have a Power of Two section. What else? What other one?
Yeah. Other complementary themes, I think, if you think about what could get that emotion out into a place where other people can use it, so I would look for maybe some influencing themes, maybe command, maybe activator. How might we help people do something with what they're picking up, bridge that, not the gap, but bridge the relationship between relationship building themes and influencing themes. Yeah, I think about those two. Those really stand out to me as being able to be themes that could say, I pick up, or I understand what we're picking up, and here's how we use it to get us to a better place.
Oh, very cool. Just a note, a programming note here. Amy had asked about if you missed something. She said, hey, can you repeat what you said? We record all of this, by the way, and so if you ever miss anything in our webcasts, actually, even live, you can pull the slider back a little bit and go right back to what we just said, and then catch back up with us. Or if you want to watch it again at the end, it's available on the live page immediately. In fact, our group in DC, that's how they're watching it today. We were joking about that in the pre-show, but they're going to watch it as soon as we're done. It goes back to the beginning, and you can watch it and move forward and backwards. So don't ever feel like when you're watching us live that you're a slave to the live feed. It is kind of nice to be able to keep up with us so that the chat makes sense. But we record all of this for you, both audio and video, and it's available if you want to go back and do it again.
Which is phenomenal for Jim and I with high communication, because chances are, no, we can't repeat what we just said. We're thinking out loud in the moment.
I know. It's like, did I say something? Yeah, no. So right on. Let's think about likely and unlikely pairings of these from our database.
Yeah, so looking at 250,000 StrengthsFinder completes, likely and unlikely are statistically what shows up the most alongside empathy in somebody's top 5 and what shows up the least. The most likely pair, 37% of people who have empathy also have developer in their top 5, which makes sense that when you were looking at theme dynamics on our Call to Coach Facebook page, you all voted developer into one that we would talk about. So perhaps lots of you have developer plus empathy. sympathy. When you think about both of these working together in one person, that's where the difference is between complementary themes versus theme dynamics. When we think about complementary themes, it's about two separate people. Theme dynamics is about how do these paint and mix together in one person. Developer's all about helping other people grow and really having your thumb on the pulse of development and improvement. When you blend that with empathy, it sounds like this: I feel your cues for growth and take action to help you get better. So it's an intimate guide, to boil it down to two words there for you.
Yeah, when I think of empathy and developer, when I think of that's like the ultimate people person, right? Of understanding someone and working with them. I think of woo and communication on the other side as the ultimate public person. So maybe it's the ultimate private person with empathy and developer, the ultimate public person when we think of woo and communication. So I like those. I like contrasting those pairs together when we think about that. What about the unlikely? The unlikely pair.
Yeah, fun one here. The least likely theme to show up with empathy in your top 5 is significance. But if you had them both, and I'm sure people do, I think about it as being outwardly intuitive. So that sort of significance has an understanding of what I'm putting out there and what effect that's having on people. How important is it? How is it being picked up? How is it staying with people and leading something bigger than myself? When you add that to empathy, there's sort of that intuition. So I think it's almost about it broadens the focus of the people that you're emoting with. I think about it being, I'm drawn toward meaningful work. I'm guided by the constant awareness of how my actions affect other people.
Yeah. Great insight on that, by the way. We're gonna talk. We've got some pairs coming up, but Micah, when we think about some just additional observations around empathy, what would you have for us?
I think if you are somebody with empathy, a couple things I'd just encourage you to think about. First, what is the best way for you to release the emotion that you absorb? Do you have, are you somebody who needs to talk it out loud with others? Are you somebody who needs some quiet time? Do you just need to get away from a situation? Because I think there's an important weight to other people's emotions, and that's a beautiful weight to bear, but it can't be all on you. And so I think having some sort of intentional way to either move through that or take it in and then think about, how do I release it? I also think, ask yourself, immediately, what unvoiced questions are you hearing, and how are you deciding which ones to answer before they're asked? Understand that other people are not as intuitive as you are. They might not be picking up on, their feeling monitor isn't turned up as high a volume as yours is. So, ask yourself, what am I picking up on? And don't expect other people to pick up on those quite as quickly as you are. Because of that, you can be an incredible sage advisor to your team, to your organization, to your family, about what sort of effect our actions are having on the emotion of other people. I think if you want to think about, how do I invest in empathy and really grow it from just a talent into a strength, practice great words that help people name emotion. Practice maybe even great questions that help people name what they're feeling. What you can bring is comfort and stability and emotional depth. Pay attention to your gut, because chances are, when you really have high empathy, if it's truly a theme, remember it's a sixth sense, so it's probably accurate most of the time. Ask yourself, the best way for you to prepare for something is going to be to do all your work in your head, maybe in your to-do list, maybe outwardly, but also to spend some time paying attention to how you feel and spend some time asking yourself, what am I picking up? Because that gut's probably going to be pretty accurate there. You might even think about, when has your gut been correct? If you need to help other people by introducing your empathy before it introduces you, you might want to have perhaps a few great stories of great examples of times that your gut has led other people to great places. And maybe you can use those to say, I've got a feeling about this, and here's a time when my feeling was correct. Would you like to hear what I'm picking up? Other thoughts, you can be a catalyst for not just how change will affect people, but why it should happen. So Jim was talking earlier about thinking about what is the future effect that this is going to have on people. That can help you be a real, I think, almost a lobbyist, a cheerleader, an activist for why something needs to change or why something even needs to stay the same. Think about the power of talking about the reasoning there. Also, I think about refining your nonverbal communication skills. Sometimes if you're a feeler, if you're an advisor, if you're a counselor, and I mean that just as ways to describe empathy, not necessarily as a role, there can be power in what's not said. So think about how might you communicate the fact that you're picking something up without using words. I would put that in the same category as practice your great words to describe emotion, two things that you could really invest in there. If you don't take action on times when you're picking up either unhealthy behavior or decisions that aren't good for people, or if you're picking up on disengagement or I think suffering well-being, and you don't do anything about it, but you still forgive people because you know they're feeling that way, I think that's when empathy can turn into sympathy and no longer be quite as much of a superpower. So don't be too forgiving of bad action just because you know how they're feeling.
And I think sometimes people feel, to use the superpower analogy, that sympathy is the kryptonite of empathy. In some ways, that's a bad thing. Micah, when we think about sympathy, right, I think that's the actual output of empathy in some ways, right? How do you, in the coaching, how do we put those two? Because that is often a result of this. This sympathetic, right? It can be. How do you reconcile those two?
I bring it back to, the real theme definition of empathy is I don't have to do anything with it. I don't have to put any judgment toward what I'm picking up. Whereas sympathy is maybe I've realized how you feel, and then I decide to feel for you. Empathy is feeling with you. Sympathy is feeling for you. Or I saw a cute quote this morning when I was preparing. It was, empathy is walking a mile in someone else's moccasins, and sympathy is feeling bad that their feet hurt because they're wearing moccasins for a mile. So I think sympathy is what we do with the feelings. And anyone can be sympathetic with or without empathy.
Yeah. No, it's just interesting. In very competitive teams, empathy just takes it on the chin sometimes, and because it's all about winning, or it's all about achieving, or it's all about completing, and when we need to slow down sometimes to feel, or to sense, or to sympathize, or to, those pieces, sometimes those high competitive achieving teams can roll right over the top of it, and I've been in some conversations where empathy takes it on the chin, in the sense that people are like, oh, well, it's not as valued as much. One of the things Kurt used to say all the time, right, is that he wanted everyone to love all 34 themes, and so I think empathy has a challenge sometimes in groups, especially in high-performing teams.
Yeah, and I think especially people's first reaction to seeing empathy on their theme sequence report sometimes can be, what am I going to do with that? How am I going to use that to win? Or how am I going to use that to keep up with, a really hard-charging, more action-biased group? And I would hold that mirror right back up to that question and say, okay, how are you? How are you going to use that to win? How are you going to use that? Let's remember that all of these themes come from studying successful people, not just people who are successful at being soft, but successful at winning. I think about the power of, if you had a really competitive individual, let's say, maybe a really competitive salesperson needing to meet their sales targets, can you imagine how much further it would get them? It'd be like putting on a jetpack if you added empathy, because they could really sense where are people most likely to sign on the dotted line. Who's feeling the most ripe for being sold to.
Yeah, you just channeled Maureen out there. She just said that in the chat room.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to mention that, and that power of, especially in a sales role where you have the achievers, the competition, the woo in there, really understanding how they're feeling. And being able to read body language or sense the temperament of the room and what's going on in that kind of setting. So that's awesome. I want to remind people we don't talk about this as often as we probably should. There's a second page to the companion guide where we have some great material. We never cover it, but there's some great material that our learning and development folks have gone through when we think about the characteristics of the word describing, the value I bring, the role I play, the needs I have, and my motivations, love and hate. Those are some great resources. We just make available for you, and you can turn that over or look at the second page of the companion. Anything you want to mention about that, Micah, before we
Yeah,
move
so
on?
the second page of the companion guide is what we call a theme map. And this, if you take some of our Gallup certified coaching courses, you'll dig into things like this. But we've already filled it out and given it to you here for empathy. We've got the characteristics or words that we use to describe me, the value I bring, the role that I play. And again, we don't use StrengthsFinder to give people specific vocations, but to listen to this. Words to describe who I am. Feeler, confidant, expressor, sage, absorber, listener, resonator. I really love the word resonator.
Yeah.
It sounds
like
kind
sage.
of mechanical and fun.
Yeah, I like sage.
I like
I
sage
think
too.
of an old wise guy who's seen everything. Right? Yeah.
Then you've also got my motivations and then the needs that I have. And when I'm coaching people, I think the greatest place that you can help somebody get to is being able to use their own experience and their own words to express the kinds of needs that they have in order for their themes to thrive. So we can jetpack you straight forward with this companion guide here. For empathy, for example, we say I need meaningful relationships. I need freedom to express my feelings. I need opportunities to make decisions based on my intuition. So don't forget page 2. It's pretty great. It's already filled out.
It's already there for you. The resource that's available. Print that and pull those together. We as we work through the year with season 2, we are releasing each of these guides as we go. And many of people have asked, can I download them all at once? And we say no. We want you to go through this exercise. Or something like if we gave them to you all at once, many of you would just download them and then never see them again. And so we like to kind of hold them out there so that you'll go through them, the exercise with us every single week. And we make them available the week before we do each of the programs. Many of them, we did a few of them last year kind of in a pilot, and then used them for the entire series this year. Some of them, so that's why you notice if you go out to the coach's blog and click on the GWSW tab, you'll see everything we have available, and we've listed out there for you. You can click on those. The ones that are hyperlinked are available. You'll see the rest of the year. There's a few that we've done in advance, and you can pull those down, but generally we make them available a week ahead of time. One of the questions I get all the time, Micah, is, can I have them all right now? And we say no.
What would you do with them all right now?
Yeah, well, there's people who would really love to have them, and they'd probably go back and listen to season 1, to be honest with you, which you should be doing anyways.
You should be doing that every week.
Every Monday, we release a GWSW post on the coach's blog that Kate works really hard on, and actually Jessica has joined the team now. We've gotten so busy, we need 2 people and 2 writers, so Kate and Jessica are writing these blog posts for us. But we put together these GWSW posts that have season 1, so we have the episode available, the short that is available for it, the Theme Thursday short, which we did last year, and then the audio only, and ways to subscribe. So don't forget those resources. We have so many resources for you out there. Lots of great things for you to watch and listen to during the week. Micah, as I set up our theme dynamics look, why don't you talk a little bit about why we do this?
Sure thing. So no theme exists on its own within a person. We do these on their own in isolation so that we can really understand the science behind them, so we can understand what are the little talents that make up a cluster of like talents that we call a theme. But then we get to leave this podcast and go out into the real seminar, which is the world with humans, and we never see a human who only has one theme. So we take into consideration this concept of theme dynamics, which is how does one theme play with another theme to build a person. And what we've done is every week we give you the opportunity to vote on some themes that you want to hear married to our theme of the week. And then we'll pull up a fantastic app that's available with the ebook Expanding Your Strengths by Kurt Liesfeld, which is available on Amazon for you. When you purchase that, you get access to this app. It's a soft copy, which is pretty important because if you tried to do this in an actual book, it would be like the world's greatest failure at attempting to rewrite the Choose Your Own Adventure series. It would be way too much sort of dropping back.
A lot of pages. Yeah.
Yeah, what you can do here is you can use a drop-down menu online and pull up any 2 themes and then think about what do these sound like together. And I think the beauty of this is it isn't an algorithm that feeds it together. It really is actual statements written by Kurt Liesfeld, an incredibly thoughtful sage, to use your word, Jim, who really thought about what could every possible pairing sound like. So we've got the top themes that you voted this week, and we're going to go through those for you.
Let's start with empathy and strategic.
How cool is this? So interestingly enough, I brought this up as a complementary theme, so thinking about it as a different person who could be a great partner. If you had them both, it would sound like this. When charting a course, you consider possible options in your head and anticipate emotional implications in your heart.
Yeah, and I think
Mic drop, right?
Yeah, no,
so
I'm
cool.
out. Yeah, but both the path and the process, and thinking about how it's going to affect people. Oftentimes, as leaders, we think about how we're going to get to that location, but we don't think about the emotional or the toll it may take on the people we're leading in that direction. And I think these two together really think about both sides of the equation.
Yeah, and I think strategic can be, it turns you into a map maker, but it doesn't necessarily say what kind of maps you're making. So when you add empathy to strategic, to me it is creating some maps or guides or options or plans for how to make the most of how people feel.
Yeah, throw developer in there, and it's pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
let's look at let's throw a developer in there. What is that?
Let's throw a developer in there. Nice little segue there, buddy.
No, I did that on accident. Let's look at developer.
So if you had empathy plus developer, again, a lot of people do. 37% of people with empathy do. Two relationship building themes. It sounds like this: human emotion and potential are invisible realities. You can help others express their feelings and achieve their potential. So there's, I think, a little bit of a direction to the empathy when you add developer. It's not just the state, but it is the start. I think developer certainly helps mature the empathy and say, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to grow?
The next one we're going to look at doesn't come up often, but so I'm excited to look at it. Let's throw in communication.
Yeah, so an influencing theme here. Communication is all about putting thoughts into words. So if you had empathy and communication, all the more important for you to invest in what are the best words that express emotion. It sounds like this: you want to understand and to be understood. So you express yourself with words that clarify your mind and with emotions that reveal your heart. Think about it as being incredibly sincere communication that is it almost, it's like it opens up that empathy to not just being something that you're downloading, but something you're uploading at the same time. So I think communication becomes a vehicle for expressing your own emotions so that you can get even better at picking up on the emotion of others.
Yeah, wouldn't these statements go great in a card? Like we give these birthday and anniversary cards to people, and they like these little quippy. Imagine if you could personalize this. Here's another idea for you strengths folks that are coming up with products, like personalized birthday cards that have these statements about people. How cool would it be if that really was you and you opened this up and read that about yourself?
Well, it started way back in courses that Don Clifton taught. We started this idea of winners cards at the end of a course, and we would blend what we knew about the person experientially with their top 5. And at the end of a course, you'd receive this fantastic, rather than a certificate that said, on this, the 12th day of May in the year of our Lord 2016, when Micah did blah, blah, blah. Instead of that, it would say, here's my top 5. And an incredibly emotive, impressive paragraph about who I am. And I still have a winner's card from when I first joined Gallup, and I sometimes write them for my clients as well. It's another idea that we actually introduce in our accelerated course and some of our certified courses. So you may have touched it, but this would probably be just a shorter way to speed to that incredibly meaningful reflection on the power and edge of people.
It's awesome. Now that we have these, as we write winner's cards for our staff, after you've been here a year, we write winner's cards for you. The management does. I'm going to use this. I'm going to come here. This is going to help me. I've always done it on an individual theme by theme basis. We bring the themes in, and I consider those and what I've seen in them over the last year. But this gives me some great insight, and I'll probably steal some of the words from it too. So
I think you should.
Let's look. Hey, it's a resource, right? So let's look at empathy and restorative.
Yeah, restorative is an executing theme that's all about fixing. So when you blend that with empathy, it sounds like this. You notice the emotional causes and effects of problems. Success for you is resolving issues and restoring emotional stability. When I wrote this down, all that came to my mind was feel and fix. Feel and fix. And I think restorative, because it's an executing theme, could sort of restart that empathy and not let empathy get stuck in, or mired in emotion, but sort of think about how am I constantly fixing, almost lather, rinse, repeat, feel and fix.
hmm One of the themes I want to cover, which we didn't plan on it, but in the Facebook group, someone said, "Please, everyone, vote this one up because I really want you to cover it," and it came in at a very, very close five. So we're going to cover it: empathy and adaptability.
Ask and you shall receive. Yeah, I was excited to see that because to me, adaptability just enhances the presence of empathy. Adaptability is also a relationship building theme, which I think people sometimes forget. It's about being fluid and being present, giving people exactly what they need in the moment that they need it. When you add that to empathy, I think it's about picking up on what people need in order to be able to give it back to them. Or in Kurt's words, because you live primarily in the here and now, you have a keen sense of both situational and emotional realities.
Next week, we're going to talk about focus. And by the way, there's a companion guide out that for there already. So for those overachievers who want to get those, we have that out from last year. But Micah, talk a little bit about focus, and then let's compare these two, or let's see how they
Yeah.
pair.
Sometimes I think about focus as being beneficial tunnel vision. I think about a racehorse, and sometimes they wear blinders so that they can be faster. That's what focus does for people. It's about executing with intense passion on one thing at a time. When you blend it together with empathy, I think it's gosh, how sexy would this be if somebody with focus and empathy was focused on you, right? I mean, I can't imagine just how good that would feel to have somebody with focus being completely present on you and thinking about how can we execute something together, and just picking up on all the emotion that you're giving out. Sounds like this. Your intentional concentration on achieving a specific goal never keeps you from being emotionally sensitive or expressive. So that, I think, is a way to talk about empathy tempering focus, whereas sometimes focus can fail to pick up on the people side of things because they're so intensely passionate about driving forward toward a goal. What empathy does for focus is, if they both happen together inside one person, is it helps us not get too distracted by our goal that we forget about the other people. I think what focus does for empathy is it helps us not get lost in the emotion and keep thinking about how's that emotion getting us somewhere.
No, very good. I'm looking forward to it next week. Very low for me, focus is. Probably no surprise if you've been watching Theme Thursday for any length of time or you know me at all. It just doesn't show up for me very well. As opposed to the arranger, which is like you say. By the way, I've used your analogy like a million times on arranger, which is trying to keep 100 ping pong balls under the water all at the same time. I always think about the splashing that creates. As I'm trying to do that, everybody around me's maybe getting a little wet in the process. But it's so good. So I'm looking forward to it. We do want to say, and I want to say, Micah and I listened to you during the week when you were talking on Facebook, and one of the fun things as we've focused on each one of these themes this year, and we've really brought it to Facebook, and you guys have really caught on with bringing up those discussions and talking about them. We read all those, and we appreciate your feedback and what you give to us on that. But I want to say I appreciate the communication that you have with each other. That's really why we created these communities, and so that you would, some of you who have high empathy have used your superpower on Facebook to help others who are asking questions and who are needing clarification or help or just want to discuss it. So we appreciate all that you guys do out on our Facebook group. If you haven't joined that yet, head out to the coaches blog. There's a link right on the front page. Go to coaching.gallup.com, and we have a link for you. So I think from just Micah and I both want to say, and I'll speak for you a little bit here, Micah, just say thanks for the involvement that you have. We are having an amazing season here. Season 2 has been really good, and we've got some great feedback from you guys. We listen, and we appreciate it. And so keep sending us your feedback if you have things you'd like us to do. We can't do everything, but we appreciate the feedback that we do get from you. Anything you would add to that, Micah?
Just the word yet. We can't do everything yet. So let us know, if there's things that could help you fall in love with these themes a little bit better or help you use them as a coach. Please let us know. These kind of conversations is really what we dreamed up when we were thinking about what could season 2 be, and the power of unifying a conversation globally every week about the same thing. I think that's how change occurs. That's how people start to see the beauty and the power and the vulnerability and the excellent mess that human beings are. it's by these conversations that are happening. So thanks to those of you who are opening up those conversations and who are participating in them.
Yeah, and I'd begin to say, as I think about my arranger, next year, it's not too early to start thinking about this. We will go through a similar where we cover one at a time, and they'll probably be in order again. You might want to think about joining us with blog posts, or you make it up. You know, as a listener, you know what you're good at and what you can do, and how do you want to join us. My idea last year when we did this is that we'd have this weekly kind of pulse, this ripple that would ripple around the world as we would talk about each one of these themes and really dive in. And I think I think it's happening. Each week gets a little bit better. We see a few more blog posts. Some of you are dug up old blog posts that you're doing. There's some great conversation that goes on. You're bringing awareness to it. Sometime this month, we will cross 6,000 people on our Facebook page in the Facebook group there. Yeah, boom. And if we haven't done it already, I think we're going to cross 14 million. Let's take a look here. I know if you're listening in a time-shifted manner, and
you're like, gosh, that's nothing.
It's 2008, and you're like, what the heck? We're at 13,981,886 right now. So we are very, very close. In the next couple days, we will cross over that 14 million people, and it's getting faster, which is awesome. A reminder to you that in July 18th, and actually we're having a Millennial Summit that's going on right now. If you haven't caught the Facebook page, I put the link to the report that is out. We'd love to have you on campus. We had a couple, over 300 people here on campus for our Millennial Summit. It's actually going on right now, and I got to meet some of the coaches. But we are really looking forward. Mike and I will both be on the ground at the CliftonStrengths Summit this summer, 18, 19, and 20. Now is the time to get in and get registered, and we are going to have a blast. Mike, I can't wait to see you.
It's going to be fantastic. Looking forward to it.
It's going to be a ton of fun. Well, Mike, anything else as we think about kind of putting a bow on this? Any final thoughts on empathy?
Yeah, just one final thought. It's a quote from one of my favorite authors, Daniel Pink. Read his books if you haven't. It says this: empathy is about standing in someone else's shoes, feeling with his or her heart, seeing with his or her eyes. Not only is empathy hard to outsource and to automate, but it makes the world a better place.
Ah, it's a great quote. Should let that one sink in for a minute. While it's sinking in, I'll remind everyone to take full advantage of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center. It's just gallupstrengthcenter.com. Send us your comments or questions. And Micah, have we gotten anybody lately to send us a blog idea? Somebody from the outside who could write for our blog. Have you gotten anything like that recently?
One really good one.
Oh, good. Well, hey, that's good. We are taking your suggestions. Not everybody will get the opportunity, but some of you will. Send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. Put guest blogger in the subject line, and a few of the ideas that you have. And can't take them all because we got some great internal writers as well. By the way, if you have not been on the blog in a while, Micah, I am just going to say some pretty good content coming out on the blog.
There's some really thoughtful, I think, advanced coaching realizations. There's some really excellent blogs. When we first started it, of course, our blog the written blogs need to either be about something that furthers our understanding of Clifton StrengthsFinder or furthers your understanding of coaching, or both. And there's some fantastic, I think, history of really great blogs there. And you can click on the 10 most viewed of all time to find some great pieces that have been out there for a while. But we are churning out some really fantastic pieces from internal writers, from external coaches, really about where do you take coaching beyond just the awareness piece of things. And some of them aren't super easy to read, but they're still short, and I would encourage you to dive in and take a look at those blogs. There's some really sophisticated ideas there. They would make great pre-writing for workshops, or pre-reading for workshops that you're leading, or great follow-up for specific topics. If there are specific topics that you want to hear more about, oh my gosh, my ideation would love it if you'd send that my way. So even if you don't want to write it yourself, if there's specific topics that you want to make sure are covered, I can either send it to the same email where you would send everything else, coaching@gallup.com, and I can either help you understand where it already is located if it's been something that we've already written it about, or certainly find somebody to pen it for you.
Very good. We'd love to have it and love to have your feedback on that. Just a reminder, another reminder, we have a meetup tab on our blog as well. We have meetups going on all around the world, and if you're doing a meetup and we don't know about it, I'd like to know. If you want to get one started, I'd like to know. If you need some help getting one going, I'd like to help you. That's one of my jobs here at Gallup, is to make sure we get these things going and they're meaningful. One of the other things, I know some of you have started coaches meetups, and if those are going, we originally did not highlight those on the page, and that was probably a mistake of mine. I'll just admit it. And so we're going to start bringing those in. Those coaches only. We'll specify that they're for certified coaches or coaches, however you want to set those up. They'll be available on there. And then Lisa Cummings asked me the other day, maybe we should highlight some of the virtual meetups that are going on. And so some of the groups have started virtual meetups, and we'll do that as well. And so if you want to send all that stuff to me, just send it to my email address, jim_collison@gallup.com, or the coaches one works too, coaching@gallup.com. Send those in, and we'll get those updated. We're trying to do a big push right before the summit and just get everybody connected. And meetups are just really a group of people getting together talking about StrengthsFinder. That's all it really is, and it can be done in a variety of ways. And do it in a way where you're using your top 5, or you're using your themes to really make it shine. And they can all look different. In fact, I'd love them if they did. They don't have to be big. They can be 3. They can be 2. Can be, well, one's not really a meetup. I guess I can't go that low.
Unless you have an election, in which case, go for it.
Yeah, if you talk to yourself, if there's voices in your head, I will consider that as 2. Also like to, if you're interested in becoming a Gallup certified coach, you can. We have a list of all the ways to do that and all the courses that are available out on our courses site, courses.gallup.com. And if you have any questions about becoming certified, or you're certified and you have questions, just send us an email, certification@gallup.com. Guys, we try to make it really easy for you. Certification@gallup.com. Send that in and we'll get right back to you. If you're interested in discovering all 34 of your talent themes, that 34 report is available as an upgrade. Information on how to get to that and to be able to purchase that is available on the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com. If you found this helpful, we'd ask that you share it. Super helpful. Our numbers continue to climb, and so that's important to me because I like to track those every single week, and so share it. Friends, neighbors, relatives, anyone near you would love to have it. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.